What Quants did was, how do I stop the transcript? I hate the transcript. Stop transcript. They did a Jenkins job which analyzed the BIP project and produced a CSV file with dependencies. Who depends on who? And also transitive dependencies, not only direct dependencies. It's a bit more complex than that, but it was useful because BIP is a Maven multi-module project, and altogether there are 944 POM files underneath the BIP project. So modules and submodules of those modules and so on. These are owned by a bunch of people, and very often comes the question, who has a dependency on this third party, or who depends on this because we need to upgrade it for Java 17, or because there's a vulnerability in log4j, or because Mockito, blah, blah, and blue, blue. So this happens a lot, and we wanted to be able to easily query those dependencies. They did it as a Jenkins job, and they had a lot of fun with that. And they discovered what system team also discovered, but it took longer for system team to understand that Jenkins is not very good to deal with complex programming. Jenkins is for CI, and whenever you have something complex, you should call an SH, or you should call a jar or whatever. System team started re-implementing, extracting from the Jenkins library all the complicated logic for running end-to-end tests. In the beginning, we have it as a Groovy, which compiles as a jar, but maybe further down the road, maybe Java would be better or whatever. So that was one problem, and I'm gonna share the screen a bit, and I'm gonna explain a bit in writing what do I mean about that. For sure, Maven dependency 3 is good for Jenkins, right? Jenkins can do that and should do that probably. Maybe aggregating these files with an sh command to aggregate all dependency trees would be something for Jenkins, but not for Jenkins. Parsing those files with complicated business logic and creating reports and so on would be better to not do it with that. And with this said, I was interested in how we would be writing this parsing of dependency tree files in another language other than Groovy, which is the language that Jenkins uses. And we could do it in Java, but we can do it also in another programming language, because I only write code in Clojure willingly. For anything else, I need to be paid and motivated or something like that. So Clojure, it's a programming language which I like, which Uncle Bob, which has written the famous clean code, likes. And it's something fun to try a new language, especially a language which has some familiar parts. It runs on the JVM, and you can use whatever Java stuff you want in it. But it has some really unfamiliar stuff, like it's function oriented, and it's dynamic typing. So this is my proposal, and I have done a bit of setup. First of all, I have here a dependency tree. It's actually two dependency trees merged into one file. So this would be the input for our small project. And what I would want from this would be a CSV like this. And this CSV has this format. I have the dependency group ID and artifact ID. I have its version, its scope, and I also have who depends on it, and the path. The path, if it's transitive. These two are not transitive or direct, so I don't have a path, but this is transitive. This one is transitive. It means that my project parent depends on JUnit Juniper Engine, which in turn depends on JUnit Platform Engine. Same here. My project core depends on this one through Vintage Engine and JUnit, and so on. Is it clear the aim of this exercise? Bogdan, I choose you to say yes from time to time whenever you understand something. Bogdan Dumitrașcu. You were the one. You were the one that did the implementation, last innovation, so you know a bit about this problem. So leave your mic on and tell me when you understand stuff, and stop me when you don't understand stuff. It's hard to speak without any feedback. We see here that we have 10 lines, and here we have 9 lines with the header, so 8 lines. Why is this difference? Because a relationship of dependency is two lines here, one this one and one that one. So these 2 lines, they are not dependencies. This is who depends on these ones. So I have 2 of these and 4 of these. So I will only have lines for these ones, but it will also contain who depends on them. Clear, Bogdan?
Yeah.
Great. I have, it's a Maven project, and it has main Clojure and the package, and I created here an empty file, and we're gonna play inside. So Clojure is very simple in syntax. Very simple in syntax. Let me get like somewhere to write some code fast and get the feedback, just to show you a few things before we start. Because even without experiencing Clojure, you should be able to understand the stuff. So it's function oriented, so everything is a function, and you call functions like this. You open a parenthesis and you put the name of the function, and then arguments if needed, and it says hello. If you have 2 parameters, then it writes them both. Right. And most things are a function. For example, plus is a function. I can do 3, and it gives me 5. and it looks horrible, but bear with me, it's not that horrible. But indeed, when you want to add two numbers, it's a bit weird. And you can do this, and so on and so forth. So everything is a function, and one important function is def. Def is the function for defining functions. So I have defined the main function, which is the one that we can execute, and it has var args for the arguments. I don't need the arguments, so I'm print line okay, and then I can run this. Great. So first thing that we want to read the input file. How do we read a file? It's rather easy. Let's try it here. There's something called slurp. And it gets a file as an argument. I need to create a file and point it to test resources, our input file. To create a file, I use something from Java yo file, and I put a point here to use the constructor. Test resources. All dependency trees.txt, and it failed. Resources.
I think you want to write SCR before test.
Okay, maybe you don't know what I want. Don't presume you know what I want. Okay, so this is the file. I want one line per element in an array. So I will try to use split lines. That's another thing that I can use, but let me try that. And I need to say Clojure string / split lines like this, and it didn't work, right? Or it did? Yes, it did. I have one string per line, so that's cool. Let's get it here and have it as a function. I'm gonna call it read file. When I define a function, I give it the name, and it's more liberal with characters that you can use. And then you say the arguments, and in our case, it's just one file. And I will put this there. I will maybe replace this with this and give it as a parameter from outside. So I'm gonna call it here read file. Oh, yes. Let's import this. Can I import this one? I should be able to import this one. Let me try to see how. It's not helping us very much. Okay. So now I don't need to say Clojure.string, I can say string. And how do I know it worked? I should print line something. Let's run it. Okay, so we have the array. The array pack, it uses space as delimiter instead of commas, so we don't understand much, but I'm pretty sure we did it fine. So what we want to do with this, we want to parse it. So we need to pass it to another function. Let's do a function parse depths lines. And how do I parse all the lines? I parse each line. So I'm gonna create def parse line, and we're gonna see what we do here. But here I'm gonna do a map, right? Map parse depth lines. So map is a function which applies another function on each element of the line and gives you the result. Right, we have this in Java. On streams, you can call map and you give it a function and it applies on each of them. There is a few problems with calling map. First of all, it gives one output for each input, and we already saw that not all lines will give us a dependency. We have 10 lines and we need 8 dependencies. But also the second thing is that when you call the function in a map, you run that function in isolation of everything else. You only get one parameter, the line. Well, if I look here, in order for me to understand properly this dependency, I need to be aware of whatever it was above. I cannot extract from here the dependency because I don't know who depends on it and what's the path. But we're going to ignore that for now and we're going to get back to it later. Okay, so I want to implement this. And by the way, let's call it. So I don't want to print line. I want to do this. Let me just make sure that we didn't break anything. So I'm not doing anything to the line. Oh no, I'm not doing anything to anything. Exception, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what I did wrong. 14.
When you call the map, you want to call parse line, right?
Yes, great. But I'm not gonna, I need to do something. I need to print it, print line. Okay, let's try again. Okay, I'm sick of seeing everything on one line. So I want to, each element, I want it on a separate line. Print line, I need to apply it to every element instead of giving it the array. To do that, you just say run print line on everything here. So I'm gonna run again and I should have one line for each element in the array. Okay, it's better. Now let's try to parse these things. Here, we're gonna start with this. In order to parse the lines, I need to remove this. I need to remove everything before the first letter. So I first need to see where the first letter is. Up until now, I've just returned something. I haven't declared anything like local variables or something. I just returned something. And by the way, when you have a function, the last statement is what the function returns. You can add more statements here. And they will be executed, but the value that will be returned is the first one, is the last one in the function. But how do I declare? How to declare? Let me show you how to declare. I call a method which is let. What the hell? Leave me alone. Let, and let is like this. I have an array and I also need to put something here. What do I put in an array? In an array, I put pairs. And the first part of the pair is the name of something which I want to declare and which I will be able then to put here, and it will be what the let will return. So let's declare something like first letter index. And we're gonna give it a value. For now, we're gonna just put 3. And then here I can return, I can use it to return the value. I can say, so if I run this, I will end up with a bunch of 4s on my screen, hopefully. Yes, it's good. And you see the something, so I can delete it, go away. Great, let's try to have the actual first letter index. How do I do that? How do I find the first letter? I don't really know how to use regular expressions and all of that, and it annoys me. So I'm gonna do a for, like I'm gonna find the first one which is not a letter. How do I do that? First, I want the first one. First receives a collection, an array or something, which is good. I want the first index of a letter. Now I need the collection, but I don't need the whole stuff. I need it to be filtered. Filter has a predicate and a collection. What is the collection? What do I need? I need an index. So the collection should be numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know what the collection is. I need something here, and the collection is numbers. Range is a function which returns an infinite stream of numbers, right? And it starts from 0 and it goes on and indefinitely. But I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna consume it indefinitely. I'm gonna stop when I find a letter. And here I need to write the predicate for finding the letter. And here is again something that you need to pay attention because you haven't seen this before. I need to create a lambda because I need here a predicate and I don't have it. We can define it here, but I'm just gonna create a lambda, and it's gonna be the only lambda that we're gonna see today. You can define it like this, and then you write the code, and when you want the parameter, you put %. So what's the code for the code for the filter is that we want a character. Character is letter. This is Java, right? Character. I need to, do I need to import it? No, it's in lang. Who's the letter? Who? Well, the end in the line. Okay. So again, I iterate over numbers and I use them in this lambda. And I use them, I need to get the nth character in the line. Nth gets has a collection and an index. These strings can act as collections, as lists, so I can do this. So let's try to see if we did something. Let's see if this is correct. For each line in the file, I should be seeing the index. And it looks good. 0, 3, 6. If I look here, it's 0, 3, 3, 6, 6, and then I'm back to 0. Is this okay? Bogdan, is this okay?
Yes, looks
Is
good.
this,
I mean, the mainstream program uses different logic, but it's like
yes,
so,
we're starting from scratch, just to try to see how things will go. I don't want to do the same as the initial program. Okay, so I want now to parse this and split it. So first I parse it, and then I say first I need to declare a variable. Dependency string. Dependency string is a substring subs which takes the line and first letter character in first letter index. So this should be without the start, right? It looks good. I got rid of the non-letters, all those characters. I will need them to compute the path, the depth of the path, but for now I don't need them. And now I want to do something with this. I want to split it. So I go for parts. What is parts is string slash split. And I'm gonna go give it this, and let's see it. It doesn't take a string, it takes the pattern, and this is how Clojure gives the pattern. It's stupid, but okay. Okay, so now for each line I have an array, but I don't like an array. I would like a map which tells me what each of these are. I don't want to say, I don't want to remember that the first one is this and the last one is that. It's not readable. So I have now the keys to a map which I want, but the values to a map. So these are the values. What did I do? These are the values in an array. I know what I want to be the keys. I want to say group ID artifact ID, type, version, and scope. Not all lines have the scope because it doesn't make sense for the first line to have scope, but it's also the line that will not end up to be a dependency, so I'm fine with it. So I have these two arrays, and what I want, and by the way, these are strings, but what are these? I could have them as strings, but they're not really strings. They are things. They are hard-coded things. In Clojure, you have something which is called a keyword, and it represents some stuff which is hard-coded. So I'm gonna have them like this. They are keywords. They are hard-coded stuff, and you're gonna see how it looks. So how do I create a map out of this? This is tricky. I have something which is called a stock, something like that. It associates in a map that I have, my map. You can give it key value, key2, value 2, and so on. You can give it this. But I don't have it like that. I have one of these and one of these. So I'm gonna need to make one of these. I have something for that. It's called interleave, and you give it two arrays, v1 and v2, and it will give you one value from the first one and one value for the second one, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Okay, so it will give you that, and that's good. I will have an array, but I need then to call this function on it. And that, how do you call a function on an array? You say apply your function, which is a sock, and then you give it that array. You can also put something in front of that array, and I will need something in front of that array. I will need my map. I don't have a map. I will give it an empty map, and he will say, okay, I will put in an empty map all of this. And by the way, Clojure is immutable 99% of the time. So when I say that I put stuff in a map, actually I call a method which gives me a fresh new map and with those associated there. So let's go back and call everything. So I said dependency info is apply a sock on an empty list with the array which is interleave, and I need to give the headers. Let me get them from here. And I also need to give the values, parts. Let's see what the hell we did here. Okay, it kind of looks horrible, but here I see group ID, my project, artifact ID, my artifact ID, type POM, version something. And here I also saw scope compile. Great, it is what we wanted. I will paste some code here to get rid of this because I don't like it. It's just some stupid things that I will paste here. Let me try again. I need to import this one. I need to import this one. I think so. I don't know. Okay, it looks better. So this is the map. For each entry, I have a map with the information. Blah, 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 blah. It's good. I think it's the moment to. So I have this dependency info. Let's go back to the CSV. I have dependency group ID, artifact ID. I have the version. I have the scope. I don't have the dependent and I don't have the path. These two are the fields which depend on what is above. How do I do that? Map does not serve me well here. I know how to take, I know the kind of function which for each element, it knows the context from above. It's called a reduce function. So if I call reduce with a function, let's say plus on an array, it's called for each element, and for each element it gathers something, it accumulates something. It gives 15. But I don't need one value, I need multiple values. There is something which is called reductions, which is like this, but it also, instead of returning the last result, reducing everything together, it gives me the reduction of an initial element with 1, and then a reduction of 2 with the accumulation, a reduction of 3 with the accumulation, and so on. So if I give it plus 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it gives me what I needed. I needed 1 and then 1 plus 2 and then 1 plus 2 plus 3 and then 1 plus 2 and so on. So this is kind of what we need. We need for each line to get the parent. From the parent, I have everything because the parent will have the path and will know who depends on him or her. I don't know. Dependencies are, I don't know. Okay, so let's try to do that. I go back here and instead of map, I say reduces, reductions, and I start with something empty and then lines. And I need to change this one because now it gets 2 parameters. It gets the previous, the accumulation, and the current line. So now I have the previous stuff. If I have the previous stuff, I know a few things. Let's try and see. I want to know the depth of my dependency. The depth of my dependency is the index of the first letter divided by 3. So I get here, I get 1, here I get 2, here I get 0. Let's put is division of first blah blah to 3. So if my depth, if is a function, it gets it has three arguments: the condition, the then, and the else. The condition is depth is 0, right? This is how you do equals. It's a function. Equals is a function. This is the first parameter. I need the then. What do I return for stuff which has depth 0? I will return a map. Just a second. And here I say dependent. I will declare a map, and inside I put a dependent. And who's the dependent? It's the dependency info. This happens for the line with depth 0. Line with depth 0. I only have the information about the dependent, who depends on what. Now, for other lines, so the else, this was the if. For the other lines, I also have the dependent, which is, who's the dependent? It's the dependent of the previous. So I use the previous. How do you get something from a map? You have two ways of getting something from a map. A map is also a function, and you can do it like this. Or you can get them mixed the other way. It works either way. So I'm getting from the previous line the dependent, right? Because for this one, the dependent is this. For this one, the dependent is the dependent of this one, which is this, and so on. For all of this, which all other lines which have a depth, the dependent is the dependent of the previous line. And I also have here in this map, I also have a dependency. And the dependency is depinfo. So the dependency info that I've parsed is either the dependent in the case of depth 0 or the dependency in the case of some depth. Bogdan, tell me if this is horribly wrong or if you can understand this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense. Great. In a parallel universe or in this universe?
In the entire multiverse.
Let's try to check it out. So what we see here, for the first line, we only have the dependent. For the second line, the dependent stays the same, but we have a dependency, which is log4j JCL over blah blah, like JCL over blah blah, and so on and so forth. The last one is this one, which is this one, right? So it looks good. I have the dependent, I have the dependency, I need the path. For some of them, there is a path. What's the path? The path is, again, the path of the previous, and maybe to the path of the previous, I need to add himself. So let's look at this. This has an empty path because it's a direct dependency. But this one should have the path of the previous plus himself. And this one has the path of the previous, which is this one, plus this one. So I'm gonna take the path of the previous and put the previous Let's see how that works. I need to add something to a collection. To add something to a collection, you have something with a stupid name, conjure. You say conjure. It sounds very stupid, and probably it is. So what's the collection? The collection is path of the previous. And what do I want to add? I want to add the dependency of the previous. Okay, so now I have a path, but in this case, I need to put everything. But in this case, I don't need to put this because I'm a sibling. So I'm gonna keep from all the from this path, I'm gonna keep only as many as my level, as my depth. So in case of this one is 0. This has it needs -1, right? This has a depth of 1. So stuff which has depth of 1 have an empty path. They are direct dependencies. This has a depth of 2. When you have a depth of 2, you should have a path of 1 entry, your parent. Okay, let's try this. So I need to take a few of this. Take how many? -1 depth. And I'm gonna do something more. I'm gonna make sure it's a vector, because if I don't make sure it's a vector, you have two kind of lists in Clojure. You have this, and you have this. This is a list, and whenever you add stuff to it, it goes in the front. This is a vector, and whenever you add something to it, it goes in the back. And you don't really add stuff to anything. You get another collection with all the previous stuff and something more, but in this case, it's like this. So I want a vector because I want to add stuff at the bottom of at the end of the path instead of at the front of the path. So this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna try it and see how it goes. Okay, let's check. The first two have an empty path. The third one has an empty path. I didn't expect that. Let's go and see. Pack. This, I was hoping to have some path. Everything has an empty path. Da-da-da! Let's go back and see why. I'm subtracting depth from 1 instead of 1 from depth. Now I have some paths. Let's try and understand one of them. Let's take the third one, fourth line. In the path I have JUnit Juniper engine, and its correct is Juniper engine, and that's it. I only have one. So this one, the platform, the JUnit platform engine, I can see it here, the first line. This is the dependent, this is the dependency platform engine. So its platform engine has the path, this one, in the path. Let's take one with 2 in the path. It's the second to last. And the path, it says JUnit vintage. It's not what I would have expected. Oh, yes, it's JUnit vintage. JUnit vintage engine. And then the second one is just JUnit. JUnit. Bogdan, is it fine?
Yes.
Tell me. I can check again something if you want. You want to go back to the code or you want to check if this is fine.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. So we have all the information needed. We have the dependent, the dependency, and the path. We only need to write it as a CSV. To write it as a CSV, I need, first of all, to get rid of things that do not belong in the CSV. So I'm gonna filter. Filter, and what do I filter on? What do I need? I need to have a dependency. If I don't have a dependency, it means I only have the dependent. I don't need that line. So I say dependency. It will have a dependency. I'm using the keyword as a predicate here. And it's fine because it will return something, and something is true, nil is false. So let me try. Now I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 entries, the ones which also have a dependency. Now I will need to convert them to a CSV line. Let's convert them to a CSV line. For this, I need to use map, and I will put a function here that we're going to define dependency to CSV line. I can use these characters in name of functions. I need to define this. I don't know why it doesn't help me to define this. I have a dependency. I need to return the line. First, I want to get this one and this one and this one for easy access. So I'm going to use again let, and it's pairs here. Is it dependent or dependent? How is it a E here? I don't know. I think it is a E. Dependent of D and dependency and path. Dependency and path. Okay. And I want to return an array. First, what do I have first in the array? I have dependency group ID and artifact ID. I'm going to create a function here. Def group ID artifact ID of a dependency, and I will return join, and I will put this, and I will say group ID of D and artifact ID of D. I have an array, I join them by this. Okay. But I need also the no. Okay. Group ID artifact ID ga of D. So I go and I call this one with the dependency. Group ID artifact of dependency, and then I want the version of the dependency, and then I want the scope, and then what do I want? I want the dependent group ID artifact ID. Dependent. And then I want the path. Oh, but I want the path with slash. So I want to join the path. Okay, but I don't want to join the paths because the path is a map. So I need to map each of these. Map, what do I want from an element in the path? From an element in the path, I want the group ID, artifact ID, and version, I think. Where is it? In the path, I have group ID, artifact ID, and version. Okay. So I go here, I say group ID, artifact ID, version, and I add this. I probably can reuse something, but like this one. Like this, and here I need the version. Okay, let's try and see. 61. I haven't closed everything somewhere. I don't know what is missing here. But why here? Oh, I have the dependency. I don't have this dependent. No, I don't have the what? The version and the scope. The version of the scope is the dependency, is not. I don't know what the Okay. This is what we wanted. And now we need to write it in a CSV file. I know how to write CSV files. I will take a method like this. Write CSV with open is try with resource and this and that and everything. I will also need a header. I don't know where to put the header. I will put it here. So let's say conj to add something to what this returns. And I need to give the headers. Where is the header? Okay, parse depths will give me this, and I don't want to print them anymore. I want to write them. So write CSV of this, but first I need to give it the file. File. What's the matter? Why do I have this? Let's try. What did I messed up? EO. I need the EO. And also, I think I need to join them at some point with the separator. Do I need to do that? I don't know if I need to do that. Let me. CSV. I need the namespace of CSV as well. I use them here. I copy pasted this method. But here I use CSV dot something. So these are packages or namespaces like the one I've defined here. Okay. Again. I have an output.csv and it looks identical to the expected one. Okay. This was it. We have the same report. Of course, what Quants did is more sophisticated. They add some, they group these dependencies in 4 groups, depending on the fact that they are direct or transitive dependency, and depending on either it's an outside dependency or is inside dependency. So if BIP depends on itself, I want to put them in one report. If BIP depends on something from outside, either Murex or third-party library, then it's outside. Is there someone still here? Okay. So this was it. I enjoy Clojure. It feels very succinct and I like writing it. Not everyone likes it, but you can easily use it in our code because it's Java. You can call it from Java. You can call it with Java minus jar. It's easy to put next to Java. Questions? Bogdan, do we rewrite everything like this, or God forbids? You can say God forbid.
Yeah, God forbids, but I'm so rewrite it. You mean the entire project?
Yes, the entire project. Tata,
Okay.
sunt într-o ședință, tata.
So, but I think in Clojure, I'm not sure because I don't know the language actually. So, how do you manage with abstractions and
You don't.
you
There
don't?
there are
Just,
no types.
yeah.
There are no types. Everything is dynamic, so you don't care about that. You just call what you need, and it will work if it has what you depend on.
Yeah, because there are multiple reports in the other project which share a common.
Yeah, you can
let's
have
say.
common stuff. You can
Yeah.
easily have common stuff, but you don't need to tell anyone that because I have this common stuff, I implement an interface. No one cares of your interface. They care about something from inside you. They care if you have this key in your map or that key in your map or whatever, right? They don't care what kind you are. Am I the kind of blah or am I the kind of blah? Nobody cares. Well, maybe you care. Maybe you don't really understand what the hell D stands from, right? I'm looking here and I say, what is the type of D? And if I explain you that the type of D is a map with keys, dependent, dependency, and path, and inside the dependent map from this map, it's another map which has group ID, artifact ID, version, scope, and so on, right? So you don't have this visibility because it doesn't say here some class, right? If it would say some class D, then you will right click some class and it will take you somewhere where you would have this explanation. You will have the structure of D, and maybe it's an interface, and it tells you what you can rely on D having. But there's nothing like this. And there are two things here. One, this is advantageous because it's much easier to write, much easier and freer to write. And second, this is scary because you don't know what your function takes and you don't know what your function outputs. So for readability, it's horrible. You do not have any idea what is the input and the output, what's the structure of them. And for that, I will have a presentation in the innovation sprint demo on how to handle this lack of information. Clojure has some answer to this, but it's not types because it's not Clojure. Clojure doesn't have types, it's dynamic typed. Is this what you had in mind?
Yeah.
Because I can easily create 4 types. You're thinking about your 4 reports, right? You have 4 reports and each report has a different name and a different filter and a different header, right? Direct dependencies don't have this as a header. You can easily create that. You can say, I have 4 of what? 4 of reports. What's a report? Well, it's something which has name, direct external depth, it also has a filter where what's the filter in my case? The filter in my case is that it doesn't have a path. So I say something like is nil. I don't know how to write this. Nil of path of it. So this is the filter. I don't think it's nil. I think it's empty. It's an empty array. I don't know how to test for an empty array, but it should be simple enough. And I have this header. And then, so this is my report header. This is my first report. And by the way, I can put commas if I want. Nobody's stopping me, but they don't really matter. And then I want to create the second report, which is, and by the way, I need here also to say to cover the external path, but let's ignore that for now. And I say here transitive. Transitive means I need to have something in the path. So I don't know how to write the fact that the length is bigger than something, but I know that I need here the path. And of course, it's ugly to have it like this because most of it is duplicated. So I go here and I say define base headers, and I put this as the base header, and I use that one here, and then here I say add to this the path, and now I don't have the duplication anymore, and so on. And then I can use this easily, right? You can see how I can use this easily to generate all 4 reports. And I don't have a type called report or something like that. I just have some maps which all have what I need. I need the name, I need the filter, I need the header. Sounds good or sounds ugly?
Yeah, so there was no other option, like if no types are available.
Well, not having types is not like an issue. It's a benefit. You will like it without types. The only thing that you're missing the information. You're missing here the fact that you don't have the visibility. But I don't expect you to be missing the fact that you need to say implements this and create an interface in order to use something. I don't think you need to create 4 files for this stupid thing, right? Because when you define types, you create a file and you say this is an interface, and then you create another file, and that file with the interface has 3 lines in it. And then you need to switch to an implementation and go there and say this implements that, and this has like 4 or 5 more lines, and so on. It's a bit annoying. You can get this, extract this as normal functions. You don't need to put them as lambdas unless they are very simple and you don't need a name for them, and so on. And for the information, I will try to explain it with a presentation in the innovation sprint. Great. Bogdan still doesn't like it.
No,
And you're in good company. Daniel doesn't like it. A lot of people don't like it, but at least it's a good exercise in how a different language looks like and what you can do with it. See you next week. If you have something to propose, you can propose. You see that there is no limit on the stupidness of the topic. So get the courage to present something. Am făcut toată prezentarea în engleză, deși englezii s-au tirat de ceva vreme. Hai, v-am pupat, pa!
Mulțumim!
Mulțumim, pa!
Pa.